going to be sharing with you in this video how to take more responsibility and take more control in your life. Now, the key is to remember that if you want to take more responsibility and more control in your life, it has to be a conscious free will choice. You have to want to take on that level of responsibility. Because if you take on that level of responsibility and you do so in a way where you don't actually want that, but then you do it anyway and you sign up for it, it's going to become a situation where you're not able to fully even enjoy what's happening because you didn't really actually want it to begin with, right? You didn't actually want it, and so now you're doing all this stuff in your life where you don't even want to be doing that, but there you are and you signed up for it. So I'm going to be sharing with you in this video how to take more responsibility in a conscious way, and a way where you actually sign up for it, and you do it in a way where you actually are doing what it is that you actually want because you fully commit to it and you fully decide it for yourself and you want that 100%. So the first thing that I want to share with you in this video is to understand that you always have a free will choice to choose in your life. Like, it's really up to you, right? People walk through their life and I believe that they think that they don't have a free will choice, that they're not the deciders of what happens in their experience in terms of what thoughts they think and then the decisions that they make for themselves. And then, because there's a lot of things you can't control in life. Let's just be honest here. You can't control everything. Not everything is in control, but some things are absolutely in control. And, I would invite and encourage every single person to really start to focus on what are the areas of your life that you cannot control. Okay, and then look at those and just let them go. Let them go. Stop focusing on that. Stop trying to control it. Just let it go and allow it to be what it is. Because if you can't control it, the best thing that you can do with that situation is just simply let it go. Let it out of your experience. Let it go and just decide to move on with something else in your life. And then so now everything that you can control, what you absolutely can take control of, well, I would invite and encourage you to focus on those things and to just simply improve on those every single day. Don't let those go. Improve upon those every single day. Focus on those and allow those to improve upon, as time goes on, you're going to improve upon those every single. There's not going to be a time in your life where you don't want to be improving upon those on a consistent basis. You want to be improving upon those every single day to the point where now you're fully taking control of the things that you can take control of. So all the things that you cannot take control of, let them go. Just decide that you don't need to worry about those. And if they fix themselves, then they fix themselves. And then if they don't, well, then they don't. But then all the things that once again you can control, you take full responsibility for those and you focus on those. And that's what responsibility means. It's to remember that, to going back to what I'm talking about here, is that you have the free will choice to make that choice to focus on what you can focus on and to take control of what you can control. So that's what it means to have a free will choice. It's to choose to control those things that you absolutely can take control, and you're taking control over a certain level of responsibility means what specific things you're signing up to control. That's just what responsibility really means in terms of what I've noticed it to be in my personal experience. Now, the second thing that I want to share with you in this video is to remember that, more responsibility, what that really means for me personally is just higher levels of independent thinking. That's just all it really is. More responsibility just means that you're beginning to think for yourself at a much deeper level. So all these years where, maybe you weren't thinking for however, maybe in your childhood, maybe even in your, who knows, maybe some in your adulthood, it can happen at different times in adulthood, at any time in somebody's life, really. It doesn't matter what age you actually are. There's going to be times where you forget that you can think for yourself, that you have that power to be an independent thinker. Now, hopefully you never forget, but if you forget, then that's okay, because that's part of the human experience, is to sometimes forget the power that we have within us to create our own experience and to think for our own selves. And that's one thing that you absolutely can control to a high degree that I think many people don't take responsibility for, is their thought patterns and what they're thinking. And that's what responsibility means, if you really think about it, is taking control, once again, of those things that you can take control of. And one of those things that I think that you can do is the way that you think, how you're thinking on a consistent basis. And if you want to take on more responsibility in your life, well, then what I would encourage you and invite you to remember is that you're going to start to need to think for yourself just a little bit more. There's going to be times where you have to make decisions. Nobody's going to be able to make a decision for you. You're going to have to start to make those choices for yourself, because no one's going to guide you and help you every single step of the way, and you're going to need to think for yourself. You're going to need to make those choices. You're going to need to take all that information that you got from the outside, from everything from out there, and to bring it in, and then to start to make your own choice from that. Form your own beliefs from that. Think for yourself from that perspective, because you've already learned enough from the outside, you've gotten enough from the external world, you've read enough books and whatever. Maybe everyone's different, right? But you could be at that point where you've got enough information from the outside, and now what you need personally is to think more for yourself. And that's what it means to take more responsibility. In my personal opinion, it's to think more for yourself and to make your own choices and to be your own person just a little bit more, and to create your own reality just a little bit more in your own world just a little bit more, and to be your own, and to create that world for yourself how you want it to be just a little bit more, and to honor yourself just a little bit more. And so the final thing that I want to share with you in this video is to remember that, if you do really, want to take this concept of taking more responsibility in your life and taking more control in your life just a little bit, if you do want to take that concept, to a serious level, what I invite and encourage you to do as well in your life is to own up to the things in your life where you're feeling like you're powerless. Own up to that just a little bit more. Owning up to that means that you admit that you feel powerless in that area, and then once you admit that you feel powerless in that area, then notice where you feel like you're not in control and dissect that just a little bit. If you feel like you're powerless, admit to it first, but then how can you feel powerful again in that area? How can you not feel powerless? How can you remove that feeling of powerlessness? Well, that's a little bit too many. How can you remove that feeling of just feeling powerless? How can you remove that out of your life? Because if you're feeling like you don't have control in that particular area, how can you improve upon that? Maybe you don't have enough support. Maybe you need to reach out for more support. Maybe you need to ask for more help. Maybe you need to be more disciplined in your own life. Maybe it has nothing to do with anything in the external. Maybe the external support is there. maybe that you need to take more control in specific areas and just have a better schedule. Be more focused on a consistent basis. If you do something every single day, I believe that you cannot fail. I think that you can, if you do something every single day, it's like, yes, nothing in life is guaranteed. Yes, almost nothing, there's like pretty much at the end of the day, like nothing is promised. But if you consistently do something every single day, there's a very high chance, a very high probable chance that you will be successful and that you will create what you want and that you will actually get that thing that you want to create in your life. You're absolutely going to be able to create that thing that you want if you do it every single day. Not guaranteed, but highly probable, highly likely that you're going to be able to create that in your life. So notice in your life, I invite and encourage you once again to, my apologies for inviting and encouraging you to do so many things here, but I do invite and encourage you once again to notice where you feel like you're not in control in your life. Where do you feel like you're not fully in your power, fully in control of what it is that you want to create and what you want to do and how you want your life to be in that area specifically in your life? Whatever area that we're talking about here, where specifically, do you feel like you're not in your power, of course, and then notice that. Just notice that a little bit more as you go throughout your day. And then I'm not saying to let it happen, become more aware of it, and then change it from there, because the first step to, of course, changing absolutely anything in your life is to be just a little bit more aware of it first. First step is consciousness and awareness of the problem, so that then you can separate yourself from the problem and then you can fix it. See, how can you fix a problem in your life if you can't even separate yourself from the problem? If you become the problem and you get sucked into the problem and you can't separate yourself from the problem, how can you fix it? How can you create a solution if you're not be able to step back from the problem and create a solution. If you're stuck in the problem, you're not going to have the capacity and the consciousness and the awareness and that intelligence to flow through you to then come up with a solution successfully. And have you ever noticed that the best solutions come when you're doing nothing, like when you're sleeping or something, or when you're showering? And I know it sounds cliche to say it in that way, but there's a very good reason for that. And I think it's because you're separating yourself from the problem, and then you can come up with a solution from that space of not being attached to the problem. However you get there, that's gonna help you to, funny enough, and this is, might seem like a random example that doesn't have anything to do with the video, but that's gonna help you as well to take more responsibility in your life. That's gonna help you to be the better person in your life and to create what it is that you want to create. And then, so remember, own up to where you feel powerless, to the point where you can reframe that powerless feeling and then change it to your benefit, and then you can then become that person that you want to be instead, and then live into the identity that you prefer to live into, and not allow that powerless feeling to define your identity any longer. You're not going to allow that problem to then define your identity anymore, and you can become the person that you really want to be. And with that, I conclude this